Welcome, artist friends. We're here today. We're going to learn about some lines. What I want you to do is get your supplies together. My name is Mr. Bryant. I teach art at Laurel Magnet School of the Arts, which is part of the Whole Schools program where we use arts to teach academics. So we're going to grab our supplies together really quickly. Now, I do want you to have a pencil or a pen, just some sort of instrument for drawing, some paper. We're also going to get another piece of paper for our final project, and then some sort of color. I'm using some chalk pastels here, you can see, but you can use oil pastels or crayons, markers, even paint if you want to. The color is not as important in this project as it is as the pencil or the pen for our drawing instrument, because we're going to learn a lot about the element of line today. So join me down here at our drawing meditation. I want you to pick up your pen or pencil, whatever instrument that you're using. Now, drawing can help us relieve stress and anxiety. It gives us time with ourselves. It gives us time to think. So what I want us to do is breathe and scan our bodies before we start. So take a deep breath in through your nose and blow it out through your mouth. As you're taking these deep breaths, you keep going, I'm going to talk. You're taking your deep breaths and blowing them out. I want you to breathe in positive feelings and happy feelings and positive emotions, and then breathe out anything that's negative or worrying you or causing you any anxiety. Take in positive stuff and breathe out the bad stuff, right? So we're going to get in touch with ourselves a little bit, and when we do that, when we're aware of ourselves, it's called mindfulness. So we're going to do a little mindful practice right now with our pen or pencil, a little bit of a drawing meditation. So if you'll join me at your paper. So I want you to release yourself of all the worries you've got. Ask yourself, do you feel tense? Do you feel worried? No need, because we're about to help with this drawing exercise. So get your favorite instrument and a piece of paper. Now I want you to sit down, be comfortable. You do need to move your arms, so maybe we're not squashed up on the couch, but somewhere where you can draw and be comfortable. Rest the end of your pen or your pencil on the paper. While you're doing this, I want you to think of how that feels in your hand. How does it feel when you hold it? How does it feel when you wrap your fingers around it? Where do you put your fingers? Does the instrument feel rough? Does it feel smooth? We write every day, but we rarely think about the feeling of writing and the sounds of writing and the sounds of making marks and the feeling of making marks. And so today we're going to focus on that. How does your instrument feel? How does it feel when you're moving? Think about those things as we're going through this. Now we're going to repeat sort of a mantra for this and for all of our art projects. It says, let the drawing flow, don't panic, let it go. We're not going to panic, we're just going to let what comes out, comes out. Now for this practice, this one we're about to do right now, I don't want you to think as much as you normally would for an art project, because like I said, we're going to let the drawing flow. So just go along with me, but don't think too much about it, and we'll see what we can get done. So we've got lots of instruments. We can use pens, pencils, markers. You use what you have and what you're the most comfortable with. Notice how you feel it. Notice how it fits in your hand. And as we start to make marks on our paper, listen, feel, and sense how it feels to add these marks to our paper. So I'm going to take my pen or my pencil or my marker, my instrument, and I'm going to drag it across the paper. Now I've made a line, right? It's simple. It goes all the way across. This is a straight line. I want you to take some moments and do a couple of straight lines. Now while we're doing this, these lines run together at the end. They're bigger over here. I just let my hand do what it wants to. I'm not worried about the image. As we keep going, I'm going to let my hand move, and now my hand wants to go from straight to sort of a curvy line. Do you use curvy lines when you draw? There's curvy lines everywhere. As we drew that curvy line, how did it feel in your hand? Now my pen also likes to make sharp, jagged, zigzaggy points. If I'm using a zigzag line, it usually means, because I'm feeling a little more intense, a little more irregular, or a little more excited, but it may feel differently for you. After we draw every line, I want you to ask yourself how it feels. How does this jagged line feel to you when you draw it and when you look at it? We're being aware of ourselves as we do this. So I've got my jagged line, I've got my curvy line, I've also got vertical lines. We went horizontal, or left to right, or sideways with this line. These lines, I'm going to draw some vertical lines, and I want you just to add them to your paper as you feel. You could be making a pattern. You could add one, or you could add as many as you think, as long as you're aware of how that action makes you feel. So we've got some horizontal lines, curvy lines, zigzag lines, vertical lines, diagonal lines. Do you hear the sound of the instrument as you're doing it? These are things that our brains take for granted, and they push it out of the way and say, you don't have to think about that because you already know what that sounds like. But mindfulness is when we tell our brain, nope, I'm focused even on the things that I think I already know. So I'm going to keep going with some more lines. I like to do this line sometimes. I like to call it a castle line, because to me it looks like the tops of castles with these different sections. But then if I'm not feeling as formal as that line, I've got a dippy line. That makes me feel kind of silly. It might make you feel more serious, or it might make you feel a little bit excited or happy. Any of those feelings are right because they're your feelings, and what we're doing is getting in touch with the way that we feel, not the way our guardians feel or our friends or the people that we see on TV. How do we feel? So I've got my dippy lines, I've got my castle lines, I've got some diagonal lines and vertical lines, zigzag lines, curvy lines, horizontal lines, and I feel very good about these lines and how they make me feel. I'm aware of how they make me feel, and I know that when I see these lines, I'll have a certain reaction, whether it's visceral, which that means in our bodies, in our senses, or whether it's in my mind. Does it stoke some sort of feeling or emotions? So I want you to continue working on your drawing if you want to. Listen to me as we keep going. We're going to put this to the side because we're going to look at it again in a moment. So put this to the side and let's start talking about what we just did. So we spent some time imagining what we are like inside, how the pencil felt to us, how we felt reacting to these things on our papers, and all the different reactions that we had. What that brings us to is something on one of these slides. It's called our mental health toolkit. We have some tools that we can use to check in with ourselves and find out how we're doing and maybe redirect ourselves a little bit. So if I'm feeling sort of negative, maybe I didn't sleep enough last night and I don't feel too excited about what I'm doing, what I can do is notice how I feel, notice that I don't feel too excited at the moment, and then I can go about changing it. So the first step is awareness. That's how we're mindful when we're doing things. So out of my toolkit, my very first tool that I can use is distraction. We just distracted ourselves with these lines and drawing on that paper. When we use our muscles and we use our bodies, it activates our brain and it keeps us excited. So we can distract ourselves from negative feelings. We also can take action against negative feelings. Action is what happens. It's the verb, right? It's what happens in the situation, what we're doing. We can take action. And we can take action to help ourselves out with our mental health by having a good schedule. We could go to sleep on time. We could eat the right foods when they're available to us. We can do all these things. That's something that I know I can do to make myself feel better. We can relax. We can take some time to relax. I think making art is very relaxing, so I hope you take that out of this as well. And then the last thing we can do seems very simple. It's just thinking. But remember how we thought about how the pencil feels or the instrument feels, and that's not something we necessarily do every day. That's thinking when we're being aware of the stuff, not letting our brain take shortcuts, and really feeling what we're talking about. All right, so how do we use that health toolkit? We notice ourselves, we think about our tools, we choose the right tool, and then we use it. And you can do that anytime. This doesn't have to be something you do out loud. It can be in your own brain while you're in class. Take a moment, check in with yourself, see if you can redirect those thoughts. So let's come to our standard. What we're talking about right now is this standard. It says that we are going, it's got some big words, but we know them. It says that we can synthesize and relate knowledge and personal experiences to make art. Synthesize means to understand, to translate, to make it known to yourself, and to relate the knowledge, bringing it to yourself, and personal experiences to make art. That just means that I can take the things that I know and the things that I've done and the experiences that I've had and use those to make art. I want you to be able to say this statement at the end of this lesson. The statement is, I understand that through art making, people make meaning by investigating and developing awareness of perceptions, knowledge, and experiences. And that just means that I get that when I make art, it makes me more aware of myself, it makes me more aware of the people around me and my surroundings, and it helps enhance all the experiences. Then I want you to be able to say after this, I can develop a work of art based on observations, which is a key word, of surroundings, which just simply means I can make art based on how I feel around me or what I see around me. We've got some questions that I want us to focus on. I want us to understand, how does engaging in creating art enrich people's lives? That means, how does making art make us better? And I think we already know that. We know that it can help us with our mental health. It can help us be aware of our surroundings. How does making art attune people to their surroundings? We've already done it today, right? We're aware of ourselves and our surroundings because we made art and we used it as a tool for distraction. How do people contribute to awareness and understanding of their lives and the lives of their communities through art making? We've addressed all these things, and I want you to continue thinking on those things as we go through this lesson. Here are the elements of art. We've got the 7: color, shape, space, form, line, texture, and value. So look at me, stand up, get comfortable, get some space, and we're going to do our motions to help us understand the elements of art and remember them. When we use our bodies, we remember things more, and it activates our brains to focus and pay attention. So when we do this, it'll help us learn. So the first element of art is color. We make a color wheel. A lot of times we present colors in a wheel. So we're going to make a color wheel with our arms. Then we've got shape. I want you to take your finger and draw a shape, whatever shape you feel like. Square, triangles, circles, ovals. Just when we say shape, you're going to draw your shape. Now space. If you noticed on the image that I had on that slide, it was 2 fingers that were pointing towards each other. They're very exciting to me. Space in art is when we notice that there is positions between the two, and they can add tension, they can add excitement. But you saw those 2 fingers. If they were right here touching each other, it's not as exciting, right? The movement's done. The excitement has happened. I'm not waiting for a moment. So I'm going to move forward with my brain and my eyes. I'm not going to look at it that long. But if the fingers are here, I want them to touch each other. Are they going towards each other? Are they pulling apart? Those are questions that I have when I think about space, and space is a very fun element of art. So for space, we're going to represent that by telling everybody to give us our space. So you're going to say, give me my space, just like that. So we've got color, we've got shape, we've got space, and we're going to give me our space. We've got form. Form is when we take a shape and we bring it into the real world to make it sort of 3D. So for form, we're going to show our giant muscles that you all have. Show me your muscles. There we go, form. So we've got color, shape, space, give me my space, form, oh, so many muscles, and then line. Make a line, however you want to make a line. Parallel lines, perpendicular lines, vertical lines, a horizontal line. Whatever line you feel like making, make it. Then we've got value, and value in color goes from high to low often, depending on how much you've tinted it or shaded it. So we're going to take our value from high to low. Let's go over them one more time. Color, shape, give me my space, form, line. We've got value, and our last one is texture. Texture is how something feels. In art, we can have implied texture or real texture. Implied texture means that it's suggested. It means it looks like it might have a texture, but the texture is not actually there. Real texture means it does actually feel like that. It does feel smooth. It does feel rough. And that's texture in art. When we use texture, we touch things with our fingers. So for texture, we're going to show that we touched something with our fingers. It was fun, or it was gross, it was nice, or it was dirty. Up to you, but texture. Texture is our feeling. So we've got 7 elements of art. Let's do them really quick. We have color. We have shape. We have space. Give me my space. We have form. We have line. We have value. And we have texture. All right, so we're about to get started on our art project, but before we do that, we have to learn the difference in some words that we use all the time, and they seem like they have the same meaning, but they don't, and it's very important for artists to understand these words. So see, you see the word see on the slide. For see, it means you didn't mean to see it, it just happened. Your principal walked past your door, your teacher walked over there, you saw them, you weren't looking, you just saw them, you didn't mean to, it just happened. If you look at something, you meant to look at something. You focused on it, you wanted to look over there, you had a purpose behind it. But then our big word, observe, it means you meant to, and you did it with all of your focus and all your attention. Anybody can look at something, anybody can see something, but a true artist observes things. So now, we know that we're all artists. We know that that means that we find joy, inspiration, peace, new ideas, meaning, and other qualities that make our lives better when we participate in all of the arts, whether that's dancing, singing, or making visual art. Today, let's see if we can discover some of those positive qualities by exploring and observing the world around us. Today we're going to observe the element of line as we create a piece of art. So now, if you will, put your earlier line drawing to the side to where you can see it, because we're going to reference those lines, and pull another piece of paper out for me. Put it right here. I want you to get your instrument. I'm going to use my marker again, and we're going to take this paper and we're going to explore our feelings, and we're also going to explore personal experiences we've had to make a piece of art. Now, this is landscape mode. I'm going to turn my paper into what artists call portrait mode, which is also vertical. So we have horizontal, we also have vertical. I'm going to be in vertical today. So I want you to take all the things we've done so far. We focused on our hands as we were drawing. We focused on how we felt as we were doing our drawing exercise. We know the elements of art. And now I want us to focus on using those things and those qualities, the things we've observed outside and the things we observe inside our own brains, to make a beautiful piece of art. Now I'm going to take my marker or my instrument, and I'm going to come up here a little bit, and I'm going to make a horizon line. Now, we live in Mississippi. A lot of our stuff is flat, but there are hills some places. So I'm going to take, and this one, I'm going to make sort of a curvy line. It doesn't have to go anywhere specific. I'm going to go up and down and back across, but I went all the way across. A horizon line is the line between the ground and the sky. So we've got our horizon line now. This is a line, right? A type of line. A curvy line. I'm going to keep using those curvy lines to section off this paper as if I'm looking at a bunch of hills. So watch with me. I'm going to come make a section here. You can break yours apart however you feel like. Come over here, make a section there. Come down here, section there, and there. Now I've used line. And I'm sort of implying that there's some sort of landscape here on this paper, right? Above my lines, I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to use a half circle curved line to represent what? What is this representing, do you think? The sun. You're so right. And then from that sun, I'm going to have some sun rays. Now, here's where we're going to use the line to show different things. Here our lines are curvy. I'm going to use straight lines that radiate outwards, and they're going to represent the sun rays. So watch how that looks different than these lines, and how it lets me know that I'm representing something differently up here than down there. So here we are. See that diagonal line that I made? Now I'm going to keep going in a radiating pattern, and that means it comes out from the middle of the circle. You hear your math teacher say radius. We radiate outwards. So now, do you see how these sharp, straight lines look so different from these curvy lines here? That's what we're going for. So here's our project. I want you to fill every space that you have with a different line. Leave 2 spaces, and we'll add some color at the end. But I want you to take the lines that you used earlier and fill these spaces with those lines and see if you can add some excitement. So I'm going to start here with some diagonal lines. I want you to use the same type of line throughout the whole space that you choose. So this is my first space I chose, and I'm going to use only diagonal lines through that space. Now I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to add some of my dippy lines. I like them a lot. I want you to add whatever you feel like. What do you want to feel like through this artwork? Do you want to feel happy from it? Do you want to feel hopeful from it? Do you want to get out some ugly feelings and feel kind of upset about it? Which line says that to you over here? That's what we're doing. So I want you to keep going with me as we make our lines. Let's take some curvy lines here, some wavy lines. Do you hear the marker on the paper? Now we know it's important to notice things like that and actually listen to them because they help our brain be aware. I've got 2 more spaces here that I'm going to add lines to. Right now, I'm going to do my castle line. You choose what you feel. All the noises a marker makes. Part of being aware. All right, I've got 1 space left, and down here, I'm going to do my zigzag lines. I hope you've got your spaces finishing. You don't have to go as fast as me. And I want you to keep working in a moment when I sign off. All right, so I have my line landscape done. All that's left is for me to add some color. So I'm gonna take some of my oil pastels over here and choose 1 section to add some color, maybe another section as well. You do what you choose. I want you to finish working on this. Take your time. As you're doing it, remember what we did to get here. We focused on ourselves. We became aware of ourselves. We paid attention to what we were doing and to all of our senses. And we know that we're artists. We know we have artist eyes, and we use those things and our powers of observation to create works of beauty because we can make things beautiful around us. It doesn't take just us. We can make things beautiful. So observing is looking with intention, with your artist eyes, and with your power of observation, you can create a world of beauty through artwork inspired by the things and the places around you. I hope you enjoy yourself, keep working on your art, and have a wonderful day.